And good evening, everyone. Iowa City residents of the American Legion Road Corridor. We want to welcome everyone here to tonight's virtual presentation on the American Legion Road project. Now, as I hope many of you on this call know, the city of Iowa City has been working on plans for this corridor for multiple years. And we are finally now at the point where this project is ready to move into construction. Now, tonight, the purpose of our meeting here is to discuss and give folks a quick review of the plan improvements, talk a little bit about how the project's going to be built, want to discuss traffic and access during construction, and also the anticipated construction schedule. Now, at the end of our formal presentation, we're going to have plenty of time to answer any and all questions here from the audience. So please, as we move along, feel free to submit any questions in the chat section of the presentation, and we will make sure to do our best to address these during the Q&A portion of the meeting. And one final reminder for us here in our virtual world is please mute yourself here as we go through the presentation, and unmute yourself here when we get to the Q&A portion. So again, really appreciate the time here this evening. And what I'd like to first do is just let everybody know kind of who's present here tonight to discuss the project with you. So first off, we have Mr. Scott Sovers. He's the Assistant City Engineer for the City of Iowa City. And you're going to be hearing from Scott just a little bit later on in the presentation. We also have Mr. Jesse Spain of Peterson Contractors Incorporated, or PCI. They are the construction company that has been selected to build this project. We're all real excited to partner with Jesse and his team as the project moves into construction and starts to take shape. And finally, my name is Aaron Moniza, and I am with Foth. I'm joined here tonight by my colleague, Clayton Carper. Now, we are with the engineering firm that was hired by the city to design the project and to get it ready for construction. Now, folks, before we get into our discussion topics, we just wanted to take a moment to say that we all know that road construction can be disruptive. It can be loud, it can be dirty, and we know that it interrupts the normal daily patterns of everyday life. But we just wanted to kind of set the meeting off as a kind reminder that just remember that when we get through this project, the community is going to have a beautiful, enhanced American Legion Road corridor when everything is all done. So we ask that everyone please be patient, and we'll work together here throughout the construction phase to make this project a great success. So here's our plan for this evening. Now, the first thing is I'm going to provide a quick overview of the project, talk about the upcoming improvements, and I'm going to talk about the construction schedule. Then I'm going to hand it off to my colleague Clayton, and he's going to walk the audience through the various stages of construction, kind of show you how access is going to work in and out of the area. And then finally, Mr. Sovers will let folks know how they can stay updated on the project in communication, and we'll open up the meeting to answering any and all questions out there. So without further ado, let's kind of jump into the project overview. Now, it's always good to begin with the end in mind, and the reasons the city undertook improvements to this corridor are listed here on the slide. So with the new Hoover School and potential future development in this area, the planned improvements will support the projected growth and upgrade the roadway infrastructure to current design standards, and ultimately provide a safe and efficient movement for all forms of traffic out there, be it pedestrians, bicyclists, or vehicular traffic. Now, the entire roadway is going to be reconstructed. Now, this is going to include all brand new concrete pavement, curb and gutter, and upgrades to all the underground public utilities, such as storm sewer, water main, and sanitary sewer. Now, A new single lane roundabout will be built at the intersection of American Legion Road and Scott Boulevard. And this is going to help improve the safety and the traffic operations there at that intersection. The project will also include new sidewalks on both sides of the road, 10-foot wide sidewalk on the north side, and a 6-foot wide sidewalk on the south side. A new pedestrian underpass is going to be constructed down near the school, and this is going to have connections to the existing sidewalk system as well as to the adjacent neighborhoods. And now finally, the new roadway will have one travel lane in each direction, as well as on-street bike lanes on both sides of the roadway. Now, one other thing you will notice here is there will also be some improvements and relocations to some of the private utilities, including the overhead power is now going to be going underground. So you won't see the power poles along the corridor here once we get through construction. So now let's talk about the schedule. Now, for those of you that have attended either of the two previous public information meetings on this project, you know that the city has been working on this for multiple years. Now where we're at is the design is complete. The right-of-way and the easements needed for the project have been acquired. The relocation of the private utilities are pretty much done. And the contractor, PCI, is now under contract and they're ready to get going on construction. And as of right now, this moment, construction is actually scheduled to begin next Monday. And construction is planned to continue until the fall of 2022. Now, at this point, what I'd like to do is hand this off to Clayton, and he's going to actually provide an overview of the construction sequence and access and what to expect here during construction. So Clayton.
Thank you, Aaron. Again, my name is Clayton Carper, and I am a project engineer with FOTH, and I will just give a brief summary of the construction staging plan for this project. As Aaron said, this is a 2-year construction project, and we'll start here in April and plan to wrap up in the fall of 2022. As Aaron said, the anticipated construction start date is next Monday on April 26th. The first phase of construction will really focus on the American Legion Road and Scott Boulevard intersection for construction of the roundabout and continuing on American Legion Road from Scott Boulevard to Buckingham Lane. The second year of construction will complete American Legion Road from Buckingham Lane to Taft Avenue. And also keep in mind that the proposed detailed staging plan that I'm about to show you may change slightly as we get into construction. So construction will begin at the American Legion Road and Scott Boulevard intersection, specifically the east half of the roundabout. The roundabout will be constructed in halves, the east and the west, to maintain traffic as long as possible. A temporary pavement will be constructed and American Legion Road will be closed east of Scott Boulevard intersection to Eastbrook. Access will be maintained to northbound and southbound traffic on Scott Boulevard, as well as two-way traffic on Muscatine Avenue to the west. Access will also be maintained to Eastbrook Street during this stage, and a detour route will be installed for American Legion Road, which will utilize East Court Street. And we'll show a detour map later on in this presentation. Once the east half of the roundabout is constructed, the entire American Legion Road and Scott Boulevard intersection will be closed to construct the west half of the roundabout. This work will be completed under a full closure of the intersection and is planned to take no longer than 70 days. For this work, the American Legion Road detour route utilizing East Court Street will remain, and a detour route will be installed for Scott Boulevard, which will utilize First Avenue. After the roundabout at the American Legion Road and Scott Boulevard intersection is complete and open to traffic, American Legion Road will be closed east of Eastbrook Street to Buckingham Lane for construction of American Legion Road. Access will be closed to those local residents who have access available other than American Legion Road, this being Silvercrest and Buckingham for the stage, and they will utilize signed detour routes. The city may, those located within the construction limits who only have access via American Legion Road, access will be maintained by the contractor during construction for those properties. The city may look at maintaining access to Iowa City Church through Community View via the newly constructed Aiden Street. The detour route for American Legion Road will again utilize East Court Street. And at the end of this stage, temporary pavement will be constructed at the project limits, and American Legion Road will be open to traffic for the winter. And this will end construction in 2021. Now in 2022, construction will begin where 2021 construction left off, somewhere east of Buckingham Lane. And the estimated start of construction will be sometime in March or April of 2022, depending on weather. Construction will not take place within the Barrington Road intersection while school is in session. Again, access will be closed to American Legion Road to those who have access available other than American Legion Road. In this stage, it is Fairway Lane and Arlington Drive. They will again utilize signed detour routes. Since Fairway Lane is currently a dead-end street, a temporary connection will be made connecting Fairway Lane to Buckingham Lane, and this connection will be removed once access is opened back up to American Legion Road. Those located within the construction limits who only have access via American Legion Road, access again will be maintained by the contractor during construction. And the detour route will again utilize East Court Street for this portion. So once school is out of session, the remaining portion of American Legion Road will be closed. Access will be maintained at all times to Hoover Elementary School during this stage, even though school is out of session. And the intersection of Taft Avenue and American Legion Road will maintain two-way traffic at all times during construction. It is possible that during these stages of construction, American Legion Road may still be closed and finishing construction from Buckingham Lane to Barrington Road. The Barrington Road and American Legion Road intersection will be completed prior to school beginning in the fall of 2022. And again, the detour route for American Legion Road will utilize East Court Street. So this will be the final stages of construction for the project. And once complete, American Legion Road will be open to traffic once again. So this is a detour route for American Legion Road that will remain in place throughout the entire project. The detour route will use Scott Boulevard, East Court Street, and Taft Avenue. And every stage of construction will utilize this detour route to some extent. This detour route shown is for Scott Boulevard during the construction of the west half of the roundabout, which will require the intersection to be closed. This detour route will use Scott Boulevard, East Court Street, First Avenue, and Highway 6. This detour route will go into effect sometime this summer in 2021 and is only planned to be in place for approximately 70 days during that construction. So that's a real brief summary of the construction staging for both 2021 and 2022. And now I will just go over a few common questions that come up most often during construction. The biggest one being access. So during construction, American Legion Road will be closed to all traffic. However, the contractor will maintain access to properties who only have access via American Legion Road. At times, there may still be some interruptions during paving operations, but you will be given advance notice if you are impacted. Mail delivery and garbage pickup may not change depending on where you are located within the project. Some locations will require cluster mailboxes that will be installed at designated locations. And for garbage pickup, you can set out your trash and recycling as you do now, and the contractor will empty bins and return them to you. And there may also be slight interruptions to water within the project, but again, you will be given advance notice for these instances. Now I'll turn things over to Scott Sovers with the City of Iowa City to discuss project communication and help answer any questions.
Thank you, Clayton. Again, my name is Scott Sovers, and I am the Assistant City Engineer for the City of Iowa City. I will be your main point of contact for this project. Should you have any questions, as Aaron had pointed out, or it included my contact information at the beginning of the presentation. We can certainly go back after we get through the presentation, so everybody can write down emails and phone numbers if need be too. But in terms of communication, outside of getting in touch with me directly, we do have a website that will be set up for this project. It's shown, the web address is shown there. We will periodically update the status of construction on the website, so you kind of know how construction is progressing throughout the project. We are also planning to set up an email list where we will send out periodic emails kind of giving folks an update on construction. If you are interested in being a part of that email list, please get in touch with me and I will get you added to that list. And like I said earlier, if something comes up and you feel more comfortable, just give me a call or shoot me an email. Feel free to do that as well. And as has been noted on this slide, construction is impactful and it's disruptive. But please, as you're driving through the construction area, please drive slowly and with care through the construction area. Safety is our priority for both the construction workers and the traveling public, both vehicular and pedestrian. So with that, we'd be happy to open it up to any questions anybody may have.
May I ask a question?
Absolutely.
My name is Chris Coker. I'm the associate pastor at Iowa City Church, and I came in late to your meeting because I was leaving another meeting. When will the 70-day closure? When is the estimated time for that, so that we can begin letting our parishioners know that they're going to have to take alternative routes?
So the 70-day closure, maybe Jesse, are you on the call? Jesse Spain, the contractor.
Yes, I'm on. Yep.
Did you have in your schedule, did you have an estimated date on when you were thinking that 70-day closure was going to start?
So when that critical closure is starting, we're looking at July is kind of what we showed on that schedule, and that could shift one way or another depending on weather. So that's what we're looking at to do the full closure of Scott Boulevard there at the intersection.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks, Jesse.
And when we get closer to that, we can give you a better date and let you know a couple weeks ahead of time, kind of to let your congregation know.
Will there be any signage or anything like that? Like once you get through the interchange, that'll say access to Iowa City Church, during the closure of American Legion between there and Barrington Road?
We weren't planning on any additional signage, but that's certainly something that we could add to the project if you feel that would be helpful to get folks to the church.
I mean, if that's a doable situation for you guys, that would be fantastic. Just letting people know, like, once the east side of American Legion is closed at the roundabout, to be able to let them know that they can still access the church through that direction.
Sure. Chris, are you the main contact for the church?
No, Tom Steele is our lead pastor, and he is the one who actually sent me some information about this meeting. And we also have a group of deacons that are kind of in the know about the plans as well. So
We'll reach out.
Scott and Jesse, I guess, and Chris, I mean, one other thing too, just in Scott, maybe you and I and Jesse could talk about this offline. I mean, one other thing we could do in a case like this is, we could also put together a simple exhibit, something that we could provide to the church that they could have there at, and hand out to their congregation that kind of shows the map on how to get there. That's another thing that can help, kind of either in addition or in lieu of, some of the special signing out there on the corridor.
That would be helpful as well. Thank you.
This is Clayton. I will add that the 7-day closure, the 70-day closure will close the entire intersection, but the first part of the roundabout, the east half, that will close American Legion Road between Scott Boulevard and Eastbrook. So there will be that closure that will happen here probably within the next 2 weeks that will require the detour to access the City of Iowa City Church.
Okay. So we need to just start promoting different directions here in the coming days.
That is correct.
Ask
All
a
right. Thank you,
question?
guys.
Another question
Welcome.
from the audience?
Yes.
Hello?
Yeah.
Would you talk about the subdivision that's going in along American Legion Road and how that's expected to impact traffic along Muscatine and American Legion and Scott? How big is that subdivision and how's it going to impact traffic
You mean long-term or just as a part of this project?
long term?
I don't think it, I believe that there's like 90 homes. If I'm taking this from memory, but I believe there's 90 homes that are going into that subdivision. So we're not expecting any major issues with impacts to traffic on either on American Legion Road or on any of the side streets or subdivisions within that area.
What about Muscatine and Scott? No?
No,
Isn't there retail going in there too?
I'm not aware of any retail.
Thank you.
Yep.
Scott, there's a couple, I guess, a couple questions that have come in on the chat. Actually, kind of two separate questions, but somewhat related regarding semi-truck traffic. So the first is, hey, is there a long-term resolution for semi-traffic along Scott Boulevard? And then the second is a resolution to large semis that are traveling on Taft. There is a weight limit there that is not being followed.
So in terms of the long-term resolution for semi-traffic along Scott Boulevard, I think ultimately we're looking at upgrading Taft Avenue, basically from, 420th all the way north to Herbert Hoover. And so hopefully it's some point once that's done, that will shift some of the traffic from Scott Boulevard to Taft Avenue. Because it's more of a direct access to the interstate. So that is a long-term goal, but obviously that is a pretty big project. I mean, we're splitting it up into separate individual phases, but that's probably going to take quite a few years to get that completed. In terms of the Taft Avenue semis, again, we're hoping to improve Taft Avenue. But as I said, it'll take a number of years before we'll be able to get that fully built out, just from a funding perspective, being able to fund those individual phases.
Okay, great, Scott. Hey, another question here is, so the question is, can we explain why a surface crosswalk will remain at Barrington Road when an underpass is being constructed?
So I think the idea there is to give folks multiple avenues to cross the roadway. If they're not comfortable crossing at grade, they can use the pedestrian underpass. We are incorporating a pedestrian refuge between the eastbound and westbound lanes at the at grade crossing. So if somebody is not able to or uncomfortable crossing the entire roadway, they'll be able to stop midway across the approach and wait for traffic to pass before they completely cross the approach.
Scott, if you don't mind, I could add to that. I know
Sure.
that was also, I guess maybe it's good for the audience to know, that was kind of worked out with discussions there with the school, right? I mean, I know we originally looked at not having that, and then after some more consideration, as Scott just alluded, the thought was, let's include that in there, because I think there was some fear that if there wasn't a crosswalk, people would be trying to cross there anyway. So,
Actually have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Could we go back to the slide that has the pedestrian underpass pictured?
Say that again.
Could we go back to the slide where the pedestrian underpass is located? Also, I just felt like it went by really fast and I wanted to see where exactly the underpass is located.
Oh, are you talking about the pedestrian underpass? You're kind of cutting
Yes.
out.
sure can. I can go back to that. Is this the slide that you were referring to?
Yes, in my question, I am a Hoover parent and I'm wondering, is there still going to be a crosswalk and a crossing guard for students, or are they supposed to utilize the underpass?
I think it was hard to hear, but I think she was asking about a crossing guard at the at-grade crossing there at the intersection.
Like here at Barrington?
Yes, I think that's
Yeah.
what Heather was getting to.
Yeah, so there is an existing crossing guard there today, correct? Is that-
Yes,
Yep.
yes, I was just wondering if there were still going to be school crossing across the road, or if you're only wanting them to go in the underpass.
Nope, the plan is to keep that crossing guard at that location.
I guess my second question would be, during construction and going forward, what is the goal and the plan for putting up signage for people to know that it's a school crossing, school zone? What is your safety measures for school?
Any chance you could repeat that? You're kind of breaking up some.
I'm sorry. I'm just wondering what your plan is during construction and even after the road is fully constructed to keep our kids safe and to make it clear that it is a school zone. We had a close call last week with the current signs that we have. So certainly we had concerns about signs being taken down during construction.
Yeah, I guess, as I said earlier, pedestrian safety, I guess everyone's safety is a priority for us here at the city of Iowa City. So we will definitely take a look at the signage, make sure it's clear, make sure there isn't an overabundance of signage that people are distracted by. And hopefully that will keep not only pedestrians, but vehicles and others safe out during construction out in this corridor.
Aaron, could I pose a question?
Of course.
So Aaron, there's quite a bit of semi-traffic on Scott Boulevard. So this roundabout, would the size of the roundabout allow for semis to pass even after the roundabout is constructed? And would the structure of the roundabout itself be able to sustain all that semi-traffic after it's constructed?
Sure. Yeah. So I guess the answer to both those questions is yes and yes. So The geometry of the roundabout is designed to accommodate the large semi trucks that do traverse that intersection. You know, what you'll see there is there's what's called a truck apron there on kind of the inside circle of the roundabout. That's there particularly for that reason. That allows the trucks both the through movements and their turning movements. And that is also designed to kind of take into account the amount of trucks that are traveling through there, both now and in the future.
Great, thank you very much.
You are welcome.
Hey, Aaron, someone was asking me if you could pull up a slide of the roundabout to kind of show the truck apron.
Sure can. Why don't I do this here, folks? I'm going to slide over. Can you see is there a new, can people see the layout now?
Yep.
Yeah, so folks, to that gentleman's question we just asked, so this gray area here that you see, this is what's called the truck apron. It's delineated differently here than the normal through lanes. And so the regular vehicular traffic, you know, our passenger cars, the smaller unit trucks, et cetera, you know, they pretty much use this light gray area, but this darker gray area here in the middle is what is called the truck apron, and that allows for the larger trucks to kind of off track and use that. Now the colors are a little misleading. That doesn't apply here to these four, what we call the splitter islands. These are kind of raised. It's really just here in the middle. But again, semi trucks, the geometry here of the roundabout is designed to accommodate those types of vehicles, the large semi trucks. So actually, if I may too, Scott, I know another question had came up here in the chat about will this information be posted on the website for folks to see that we're not able to attend?
Yep.
The answer to that is yes. As a matter of fact, this virtual presentation is being recorded, and so the city at the conclusion here of the meeting tonight will get this posted out to the project website, so anyone can view that wasn't able to make it. And there was a follow-up to that about will updates be posted to the website as we move forward in construction? And Scott, I believe yes. So, you know, the project website is a great source of information, both now and as we move through these next 2 years of construction. You know, the city will keep the project website. It'll be a dynamic site, so you'll see updates in there, particularly with some of the major construction milestones.
I guess I'd like to add to that, you know, when we have major milestones, we may send out a more of a larger press release to the greater Iowa City through other social media avenues. You know, for example, when the roundabout opens or when we're getting close to opening the roundabout to full traffic, we may send out a notice through social media so everybody can learn of that.
And folks, in just a sec here, I'll put a link to the project website right here in the chat. And then that way, you know, it'll be another location there for how to get to that information.
I think there's another question in the chat pod about the aesthetics for the roundabout. We currently do not have any concrete plans for the aesthetics in the roundabout as a part of this project, but we are working with our Parks Department on developing a plan. I suspect it would be just a lot of plantings, some trees and shrubs and other types of plants. Similar to probably what we did on the roundabouts on South Sycamore.
Scott, just a follow-up question on that. Could you tell us the diameter of the roundabout without the truck apron, just to get a sense of scale and size?
Sure. Clayton, do you recall what that is off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, I don't, but I'll check that right now while we're talking. While I'm looking that up, there was one other question asking about possible improvements, Taft Avenue, south of American Legion Road, down to 420th. I know there was some
Yep.
thoughts. I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Yep, so the county is looking at a project to do some grading and some chip sealing of that section of Taft Avenue. They are looking at doing the grading and redoing the granular surfacing sometime this fall. And it's my understanding that typically they like to do that a year in advance to when they actually chip seal it, before they actually chip seal it. So I would imagine if they do the grading this fall, they would be looking at doing the chip sealing maybe late summer, early fall of next year.
So another question here that was brought up in the chat was regarding, I know we've been talking a lot about cars and trucks there at the roundabout, but how safe is the roundabout for pedestrians to cross? So the short answer to that is it's actually very safe. In a lot of ways, the roundabouts actually improve both the safety of vehicles as well as pedestrians. And really one of the reasons for that is, if you can kind of get and see my screen, what's nice here when you're crossing an intersection with the roundabout is you're actually only looking at traffic in one direction. So for example, here as folks cross here, you're really just looking to your left for any vehicles that are coming this way. Then you have your refuge island here. Then you're just looking at traffic coming from your right as you continue crossing the roadway. So again, in this location, and this was something that we looked at with the city and kind of vetted a number of different options for what to do here at the intersection. But again, with the traffic out there, the roundabout is definitely going to provide some benefits, both not only for traffic safety and traffic operations, but as well as safe crossings for pedestrians. Another question has been asked regarding how hard would it be to install a four-way stop at the school intersection? I don't know, Scott, if you want to take that one, or if you'd like me to.
Yeah, I can take that one. So I believe as a part of our project design that when we started out on this project, we did take a look at different traffic control options for that intersection. And what came out of that is currently a all-way stop at the Barrington Road and American Legion Road intersection is not warranted. It's not to say that it wouldn't be warranted in the past. However, in terms of adding a four-way stop, I mean, that is something that could invariably be done at some point in the future.
All right.
Hey, getting back to Jerry's question, I did check. So the outside diameter, which would be the radius at the edge of the splitter islands, is 140-foot diameter. And to the outer edge of the truck apron is 94 diameter. So you can see it's a fairly large roundabout.
Thank you, Clayton.
Yep.
All right, so we have a question / comment that came in regarding the reasoning on where the pedestrian underpass is located where it is, and why it wasn't located maybe closer to the school. And so the reason really, the reason driving that was just looking at the profile of the roadway and kind of balancing the grades and the elevations we needed to get to be able to fit that box culvert underneath that. Doing that there closer to the Barrington road intersection would have just been very problematic with with just what the elevations are there. So as we looked at the corridor, kind of the location that you see the pedestrian underpass was really the ideal location where we had room to fit that in there, as well as not affecting the profile of the road and causing additional impacts to the corridor, particularly with grading and impacts to right of way, et cetera.
Aaron, could you shift the view over to that?
Certainly,
Location.
Scott, you bet. Yes.
Yeah, I guess just to expand on Aaron's response, as we head further to the west, we have more vertical relief to be able to get that box culvert or the pedestrian tunnel put in there. As we move further to the east towards Barrington Road, the school and then the backyards of the properties just off of Barrington Road there on the northwest corner of the intersection start to get more closer to the roadway elevation. So we would have to do a significant amount of grading and retaining walls, and which would require us to get additional right of way and impact both impact more of the school and then the backyards of those two properties.
Okay. So another good question was why was why was a roundabout not put here at this intersection? And I guess I could kind of take the first stab at that. And so really a combination of reasons. The first was a roundabout could be there. It's not really warranted with the traffic there at that intersection. And then, the other thing about the roundabout here in a location like this is, then we'd have some additional right-of-way impacts here at potentially here at this intersection. So again, just not at this point in time, and to our knowledge on the projected traffic in the future, just wasn't an intersection treatment that was warranted here at this location. Another good question is why not an overpass to the school from Barrington? Again, I would say that's probably the best way to answer that is, as you look at, in projects like this and working with Scott in the city, we're always trying to find the right balance and most economic use of available resources. So in our case, doing the underpass at the location that it's shown, that provided, the grade separated crossing for the pedestrians, and would certainly be in a little bit more of an economic solution than having to build an overpass there at the intersection.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Aaron. The other thing I might add to that is, I think it'd be challenging to get an overpass to work in that particular location and make it ADA compliant. You would have to build ramps to get up to that elevation, to get over the roadway. We would have to have a minimum clearance similar to what we require for bridges, which is 15 feet. So you'd have to get up pretty high, which would require a lot of ramps on both ends of the approaches.
So staying in the same vein with the underpass, we've gotten a question on why is the underpass necessary? And I guess I would go back to kind of the original goals here of the project from the city's perspective. And the decision was made to kind of provide multiple linkages here for pedestrians, including a safe crossing, multiple safe crossings here from kind of the northern, those neighborhoods there to the north of the corridor to the south. And again, as we talked about earlier, we've decided to provide both a grade separated crossing, as well as an at-grade crossing there at the intersection here to provide pedestrian and bicycle traffic, kind of multiple ways to safely cross the corridor. All right. Okay, we've got a question here. What is the pedestrian load for this crosswalk? Has a study been completed? I think, Martin, are you referring to the crosswalk there at Barrington Road? I guess I'll make that assumption. And so, yes, we did look at that intersection, as Scott mentioned earlier. We looked at it, and there was a study done on what to do as far as should it be, what type of control, was there any sort of issues with including an at-grade separate or at-grade crossing there. And what you see here is kind of what we've recommended from the engineering and design standpoint on what can safely be done in kind of the right geometry and capacity and intersection control there at the Barrington Road intersection. Now, I think as far as I can see here in the chat, I think we're all caught up on questions that have been submitted. Oh, looks like we got another one here. So during phase 2, it would seem that Buckingham Lane may seem like a likely cut through to the overall Windsor Ridge neighborhood. Any concerns there? So let me go back here. Okay, here's Buckingham. And Scott, which one is Windsor Ridge again?
Maybe in the Buckingham area
Right
there.
here?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, because currently the way staging is set up, during the second year, there will be a hard closure just east of that intersection potentially.
Right in here.
Yes.
Yeah, he's saying, when you have the hard closure there, if you're coming eastbound on American Legion, are they going to cut down Buckingham to get to the neighborhoods to the east?
There
So-
could be some. We are still signing the detour to go up to East Court Street. There will be those who find out that they can do that, whether that's a real time savings. If they live in the area, it may be. That whole intersection there, that was one thing I didn't really touch on, but as far as the 2021 construction, PCI is going to get as far east as they can. That as far as where they go, they end up, that's still kind of up in the air. The intent is to get them east of Buckingham so that that intersection is not affected for 2 construction seasons. But I guess I'll leave it at that for right now.
I guess I might add that certainly this will be something that we'll need to keep an eye on during construction. If it becomes a big issue, then we'll have to address it. But I suspect if people start doing a lot of that there's going to be, a lot of traffic backups on those side streets that people are going to find alternate routes to use. So the hope is that people will try to use the more collector streets for the bypass or for the detour route. So Court would be the more likely, hopefully the more likely route that they'll use.
One other question that I think lost back towards the beginning was, can we get our internet upgraded with the roads? I don't know if you want to touch on that, Scott.
Internet upgraded.
Yes, that was.
Sure, I look at the right. Let me look back. So the city is not installing. So the city is installing conduits for city use only, and the city is not a provider of internet or telecommunications. But with that being said, I do know that IMON is looking to put in additional conduits along American Legion Road as a part during construction of our project. So I assume that there may be some avenues or some opportunities for the Windsor Ridge area to maybe be upgraded to IMON's services here in the near future.
So Scott, we got a question here. Is there any possibility that the 10-foot wide sidewalk could be reduced to 6 or 8 feet?
At this point, because it is a path that we will likely be used by both bicyclists and pedestrians, we'd like to keep it at the 10 foot. That is the city standard. We typically on arterial streets, our standard is to have a wide sidewalk, which would be 10 feet on one side, and then a narrower sidewalk, which is either 5 to 6 feet on the other side.
All right, we do have another question here. Will the increased level of traffic on Taft during the detour increase danger given that many semis, sometimes ones that should not be on that road given weight limits, use that as a cut through? Taft Road does not seem to be set up for a large amount of traffic given all the hills and lack of shoulders. And I guess I don't know, Scott, if that's been an issue here from the city. And I'm assuming the comments kind of coming from, maybe, well, certainly when the Scott Boulevard intersection is closed, that some of those trucks currently using that may go over to Taft. And I guess my thoughts on that would be we're just going to have to kind of monitor to kind of see how that goes here.
I think it's important to note that, yes, there'll be a period of time when the intersection will be fully closed, that people have to find alternate routes. We would encourage the truck traffic, and we'll have it signed for a detour to First Avenue. So the hope is that they will use First Avenue versus Taft.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so isn't 3-foot lanes? Here we got a question here. So isn't 3-foot lanes being provided on street? Why would bikes use the sidewalk? Isn't this redundant? So I think that's a good question. So the corridor was set up. You have so some of the more I think they use the kind of term experienced bicyclists that like to go a little bit faster, like to use the roadway and henceforth the bike lanes, whereas, you know, the sidewalks on both sides, the 6 foot on the south, as Scott mentioned, and the 10-foot wide sidewalk on the north are there for the use of both pedestrians and some of the more, I hate to use the word novice, but those bicyclists that maybe are not as concerned with traveling on the roadway or at some of the higher speeds. So again, at least coming at it from the design side of things and working with the city, I think that's kind of part of the city's complete streets policy and looking at, you know, how they set up corridors for all modes of traffic. And my understanding is, I believe this is one of those corridors, Scott, that I think is fairly heavily used by some of the more advanced bicyclers.
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, but I know there was another follow-up comment about, yeah, having the bikes use one or the other. Duly noted. I will say, you know, I think it's a challenge, albeit a good challenge when you're looking at the design of these types of projects is, you know, you kind of have different groups that are asking for different things. And I know, you know, some of the real serious bikers, I think they appreciate having the on-street bike lanes. But like I said, there's also folks that are also, you know, whether they're novice or infrequent or even avid bicycle riders that really don't feel comfortable riding, you know, on the road and would prefer to have a hard surface sidewalk or wide sidewalk to use. So is there another question here? Is there coordination of this project with the I-80 improvement at the Hoover interchange? And then a question on what is the timeline of that? So Scott, I'm going to have to defer to you on that one. I am not familiar with the timeline or where that project is at. I don't know if you have any information on that project. I would assume that's a DOT project.
That you're right. That is a DOT project. The DOT has reached out to us, and we are coordinating, or we have discussed how the two projects occurring at the same time would conflict. And as of right now, we're not anticipating there being any issues from a congestion or traffic impact between the two projects. In regards to timeline, I'm not entirely sure when that project is set to be completed. I thought, and it's certainly something that we can follow up on, but I'm thinking that was scheduled to be completed this fall.
Okay. So another question submitted here. Will there at some point be center turn lanes on American Legion Road? So how I would answer that is not anytime in the next probably multiple decades, as far as we know. You know, so, you know, when we looked at and worked with the city here on designing the number of lanes and the capacity here of the corridor, you know, we do our very best to make future projections on the amount of traffic. And we kind of go out as far as we can. We usually go out at 20 years is kind of the farthest we can usually project out. And even within that, there's some level of estimation. So I would say that, you know, based on what we know and what we project to happen, there wouldn't be a need for a center turn lane here on the corridor, certainly for quite some time, if ever, really. I know folks are monitoring the chat. I know there's been some additional kind of comments made here, kind of related to the question on the bike lanes and the sidewalks. And again, you know, this is all really good dialogue. Folks, these are the types of things that, you know, the city kind of deals with on a daily basis, and trying to strike that right balance of, you know, providing, you know, the transportation infrastructure here for all modes of traffic, you know, while also balancing, balancing resources and, you know, kind of being fiscally responsible. So, you know, I guess it's our thought here with this corridor, just in general, is, you know, you've got, you know, this is primarily a residential corridor. You know, if you look at the future land use, you know, foresee the potential for future development, which would be, for the most part, residential in nature. You've got a school, a brand new elementary school. And, you know, really those are some of the driving forces and thoughts that go into the decision-making process to really include, you know, a corridor that best accommodates, you know, multiple modes of transportation. Again, be it different types of bicyclers, also, you know, pedestrians, as well as vehicular traffic. Okay. So during, I guess, another question. So during the road closure period, could you speak to how you would like to see parents best navigate drop-off pickup of Hoover Elementary students? I recognize you cannot control people, but ideally, how would you have parents travel for that? So, well, I get the best way that I can answer that is, so access to Hoover Elementary School is going to be maintained throughout the entire construction project. So at any and all phases, especially during school, you know, there will always be access to the elementary school. And I would, again, I'm not completely familiar with the drop off and pickup process. I would assume it's, you know, kind of like other schools. You come in, you go through the circular roadway, and then you exit, and that would really, that process would really be maintained, you know, as it is today. Now, there is going to be a period when we are doing construction at the intersection. Now, again, that is going to occur next year after school is out for the summer. And so there will be a period for when there are some summer activities potentially there at Hoover, where you're going to have to use Barrington Road to access the school. And at that point in time, there'll be some signage kind of directing folks to access the school during that period. I hope I answered that question okay. If not, I think Laura, if you want to add some more in there, I can elaborate if needed. So we got a comment / question here. So at the previous meeting, you shared the positive impact of narrower traffic lanes on traffic speed. Can you share that information again? We'd be happy to. Yeah, so this corridor has traffic lanes that are 10 feet wide. So many streets have traffic lanes that are 12 feet wide. And but one of the, so one of the areas on the roadway design side of things that can be implemented to, they're called natural traffic calming effects, and that is to kind of reduce the lane width down to either 11 or 10 feet. And really what ends up happening there is just with the narrow lanes, drivers tend to drive slower because, you know, they don't have, there's kind of the impression that they don't have as much space. And so it's kind of a natural traffic calming measure, which was also one of the things here that we're doing with the corridor. As you can see, we've generally got lower speeds traveling through here. You know, the roundabout will also kind of slow down and calm traffic, and then the narrow lanes will also help with that. So I hope that answered that question, but yeah, it's just, you know, drivers tend to drive a little bit slower in narrower lanes, again, because they feel the sense of having a little bit less space. Their behaviors tend to have them drive a little bit slower.
Here, I got a message sent to me asking about the horizontal bend there in American Legion Road at Buckingham, if it will be the same as it is today. Mainly being that they bring up the point that turning into Windsor West, traveling eastbound can be somewhat blind. So to address that, the horizontal curve there will closely match the existing roadway. Some things to help out this intersection here is, as I don't know if Aaron had mentioned this, but, and this was actually a question by Howard. So the new speed limit on American Legion Road is going to be posted 25. With the posted 25 and the grading of the trail, the crosswalk there, that should make that intersection more visible when you make that eastbound left turn onto Buckingham Lane. But yeah, to answer your question, that horizontal bend there is going to match what it is today closely.
Yeah, thanks, Clayton. And yeah, I just saw that there, and yeah, a great reminder that yes, the posted speed limit is going to be lower here. So, you know, again, a nice new multimodal corridor with efficient but slower speeds of traffic.
Yeah, I think just to expand on that, you know, I believe what's going to help most with that intersection is with the grading that we're planning to do, obviously with pushing the sidewalks back, that area behind the back of curb to basically to the back of sidewalks going to be, for all intents and purposes, fairly flat. And so that'll give you a better sight distance around that curve.
So question has been posed was, how long will the north end of Fairway Lane be open? So that generally I would say that that's just going to be open for the second year of construction. So when we get to the 2022 work and PCI starts to work on the section of American Legion there at the Fairway intersection. So let me just zoom out here. All right, so yeah, so here's Fairway Lane. So if you kind of remember from earlier in the presentation, to refresh everyone's memory. So yeah, next year, so in 2022, when we come back and we start up construction again, the first segment that's going to be done is kind of this area here, kind of between Buckingham and Barrington. And so at that time is when the temporary connection to Fairway Lane to Buckingham will be made. And that will be, and once this opens up to traffic, that's when we will take out that temporary connection and return it to its existing condition of not going all the way through there to Buckingham. So As
Yeah,
far as,
to add to that just a little bit, Aaron, is so Fairway Lane really won't be able to be used as a pass-through, mainly because in its current configuration, it is a dead-end road. And once construction is on American Legion Road, we make the temporary connection to the north. It will basically remain a dead-end road only from the other direction. And then when American Legion Road is finished, that temporary section will be removed.
yep, thanks, Clayton.
Yeah, so basically a connection won't be made, the temporary connection won't be made until the intersection at American Legion and Fairway is closed.
Correct. Yep.
So that'll be, just to follow up on that, that connection will be in place likely for most of the construction season. So I would say starting in March, April timeframe, all the way to probably the fall.
Mhm.
Which I would say, maybe late October, early November.
All right.
I think Martin had a note about the semis and farm machinery access, the southern farm fields. That is certainly something that we're aware of, that will still need to be maintained. So we can work with our contractor and make sure that the farmers have access to those fields to the south.
All right. I see there's been one more comment here on Fairway Lane. Yep, in about just kind of for Fairway Lane residents. And I hope we explained, yes, for the most part. I mean, really the only folks that really would need to be going down there are someone that lives there. So I hope that addressed here those questions. Scott and Clayton, I think we're caught up on the questions. I see something just came from Sarah. Yes, we thank you, Sarah. We appreciate you and everyone listening in and all the great questions. And yes, we agree. We are excited as well to finally get this going and having Jesse and PCI start moving dirt and removing pavement, and you'll start to see things come to fruition. And as we said earlier, folks, we know, hey, we get it. We know construction it's a pain and it's inconvenient and it's messy and dirty and all those things. And trust us when we say on behalf of the city and PCI and all of us, we're doing everything we can to try to keep these construction projects really moving forward as expeditiously as we can. But we also want to make sure things get done correctly and right, and these things just take a little bit of time. So we do appreciate everybody's patience.
I think one other thing to note is as stuff comes up, if anybody has any questions, comments, or concerns, in any part of construction, please reach out to the city and let us know. We want to know those things so that we can address them. So reach out to myself, and I can hopefully try to address those concerns or make some changes on the construction side to make things better for everybody.
And I did just pull up on the screen. This is the project website that you can find here on the City of Iowa City's website. The link is included there in the chat box, and there you can see Scott's information. So folks, this is just, again, as a kind reminder, this is a good source of project information, as both now and as we move forward through construction. Well, I know we're getting some thank yous from folks. And so again, we want to thank you. We really do appreciate everybody's time here this evening. I know folks are busy in our everyday lives, so we appreciate you taking the time to listen to us and talk about where things are going with the project. And we sincerely appreciate all the great questions. All these were really, really good questions and good information. And as we mentioned earlier, remember, all this is being recorded. We'll make sure that this recording of this and all this information is available here on the project website. So if you've got some friends or neighbors that weren't able to join us here this evening, please make sure that you let them know that they can check this out at their leisure. And of course, if you have any questions in the future, please don't hesitate to reach out to the city, and we'll make sure to get your questions answered. All right. Clayton, I see your question here about the semi-traffic on Taft. I'm sorry, I must have missed that one.
I think Lori had brought that one up. I think it was asked earlier on when we were just talking about semi-traffic on Taft. I think she was, her other question kind of was more towards who would monitor the semi-traffic and if something else needs to happen on Taft during construction or possibly after.
Yep, I see that now. Thanks, Clayton, for bringing that up. And yes, Lori, we were talking about that a little bit earlier. That's going to be something that, again, we've got, so during that part of the project where the intersection there at Scott Boulevard is closed, the posted detour route is going to be to have vehicles use first. Will be our anticipation that that's going to be what they'll use. But of course, we'll monitor, the project will kind of monitor that situation. If we see, maybe more trucks using Taft than should be, then we can look at doing something here to kind of address that if we think there's some issues or concerns with that. All right. Well, Scott, on behalf of the city, is there anything else that you want to share here?
I don't think so. I guess I just wanted to, like you said, thank everybody for attending tonight, and thank everybody in advance for all their patience as we work through this project. I know it's going to be impactful, but we feel like in the end it's going to be a great project, a new corridor, multimodal corridor that not only vehicles but pedestrians and bicyclists can use. So we're really excited about it and look forward to getting started on this project next week.
Definitely. Well said, Scott. Well, I think I guess if there's no other questions, I think we can probably sign off at this point. And again, thanks everybody. And I hope everyone has a real pleasant rest of their evening. And you'll start to see some things happen out there as soon as next week. So the fun will really begin. So everybody have a great rest of your evening.